The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
Hello, a very warm welcome to a VAR show, the show which talks about all the various major football leagues in detail. Today, we are going to conduct some interviews and we have a very special guest. We have the famous World Cup referee, Dr. Errol Sweeney with us. So without wasting any further time, I would like to thank Doctor for coming on the show. Thank you and welcome to our show. And I would like to begin by asking you, how are you and what are you doing during this pandemic period?
I'm very well, thank you. Just my wife and myself in the house. All the children have gone. Because of our age, we had to, what they call cocoon. In other words, you weren't allowed outside your door in the beginning. I don't know if you've heard that word. But we had to stay indoors, and my sister doesn't live too far away, and she used to get our shopping and do our bits and pieces for us. And so we stuck very rigidly to the rules, if you like, and the advice from the government, and particularly from our medical people and our scientific people. So thankfully, we have escaped it, my wife and I, and we're doing very well. And now things are getting better. So hopefully it'll get better and better and better, and we can get rid of this pandemic.
Hopefully. So now I would like to talk about a lighter topic, that is football, in comparison to what's happening all around the world. So I'll talk of your career. Generally when kids grow up, they want to be a player and maybe a manager. Did you always envision yourself to become a referee?
No, actually I didn't. Initially I was playing football. Now at a low level. I never played professional football, and I'm a musician, and I was doing my exams on the piano and the guitar with visions of being a music teacher, which I did become. But I remember playing in a game one time, and I got tackled and I went down on my arm, and of course I need my fingers on the piano, and I got a bad sprain, and I thought, whoops. I had an exam coming up in 2 months' time, and I thought, oops, if I sprain my hand now, I'm going to miss my exam. That means I will miss a whole year. So I stopped it then, and as well as being a musician, of course, I play in a band. And I was playing in a nightclub in Dublin at the time, and there was a very famous Irish referee, international referee, used to come into the club, and we just got to talking, and he said, why don't you join the referees? He said, we're very badly in need of referees, and even today there's a worldwide shortage of referees, particularly at the lower levels. And I thought, refereeing, don't know. Yeah, okay, maybe. And anyway, to make a long story short, I did join, became a referee. That was way back in 1970-71 season. So actually it will be 50 years ago this year when I started refereeing. So it's a long time. And then just got better and better, and got promotions and climbed the ladder, and I got promoted to the Premier League here in Ireland in 1974-75. So it was only 5 years at a lower level, and then I was assessed, because here in Ireland, even at what we call junior level, which is not junior as in youngsters, it's at the senior level would be the professional leagues, the Premier League, and the junior level would be all amateur leagues, although some of them are very, very good. So we constantly have match assessors or referee inspectors or whatever you want to call them, going around, checking on the games, checking on referees particularly, and looking for guys to promote and to fill the senior panel or the professional panel. And I was thankfully assessed one Sunday afternoon, and the assessor came on to me and he says, where are you from? And all of that sort of thing. He said, I think you're really good. I'm going to recommend you for the senior panel. Well, I was absolutely over the moon, because with me in life, I like to be the best at whatever I'm doing. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I will always strive to be number one. I may not always get there, but it won't be from lack of trying. I never go into anything halfway or 50%. I go in the whole way or not at all. And the same when I'm coaching and mentoring referees. If I see any kind of apathy or guys not putting in the effort or just, not trying, I lose interest in them right away. And I tell them so. This is not for you. You better go and do something else. Or if you're happy enough in the lower leagues, that's okay. But don't waste my time. I want to get you to a World Cup final. If you want me to get you to a World Cup final, I will do everything in my power to get you there. I can only coach you. I can only teach you. You have to do it. So like a soccer coach, he's only as good as the players on the field. If the players don't perform, he can be the best coach in the world. He can be Alex Ferguson. He can be anybody. But if the players don't play and don't perform, well, then he's made to look very ordinary. So I climbed the ladder and then got to the senior panel, and then the economic situation here in Ireland got very bad in the 1980s, which meant I had to leave the country and go to South Africa.
So before I move on to your chapter in South Africa, I wanted to ask one small question. Like it may be a segue with the previous one. You take it at a junior level, maybe at the grassroots level, the referees get sticks from the parents. You take it at a senior level, they get it from the managers, both the managers, players, and even the pundits. How difficult is it to be a referee?
It depends how strong your character is or your personality. You've got to be very, very strong because you're going to get it from all sides. You're going to get it from the two teams. You're going to get it from the two managers and the coaches. You're going to get it from both sets of fans. And remember, as a referee, you're an arbitrator. You arbitrate between two factions and you try and arrive at a decision that's not only right, but correct. Because people say, oh, it was right or it was wrong. I believe there's no such thing as right or wrong. It's either correct or incorrect. And you have to make a decision based on what you see at the time. And remember, as a referee, you only have one chance. You only see it once. You now, of course, with VAR, and we'll come to that a little bit later, with VAR, now you have a second chance to look at something. But if you're out there in a situation at a lower level, sometimes you don't even have assistant referees, you don't even have linesmen. You're on your own, and you have to do everything, including the offsides, and you won't always get it right. So you're going to get it from both teams. And during my refereeing career, I would rather referee in front of 100,000 people than 100 people. I was never put off by the size of the crowd, by the importance of the game or the competition, or by the profile of the players. Never put me off whatsoever. I've red carded Brian Robson, the former England and Manchester United captain, in South Africa in 1993. And, one of the papers said, oh my goodness, who's been sent off? Has God been sent off? Because there was such a furore about it. And my answer to that is, he is just another player. He is another player, one of 11 on that team against 11 players on the other side. He may be high profile, he may be England captain, he may be whatever. He may be earning hundreds of thousands of pounds per week in salaries. That honestly means nothing to me. He goes by the same set of rules as are in here, the FIFA laws of the game. And he's subjected to these. And if he behaves himself, he'll be okay. And if he doesn't behave himself, he won't be okay. It's very simple. It's very simple. You just because you are a famous person doesn't mean to say you can go out on the street and you can go through a red light, or you don't stop at a stop street, or you can break the speed limit. You're still subject to those laws, the laws of the land. The police can still stop you. Doesn't matter who you are. So why should it be any different on the field of play? Makes no difference to me. You have to be very strong, what we call over here a hard neck. I don't know if you've heard that expression, but you really have to be strong, and you have to be able to make decisions regardless of what's going to happen or the reaction from the crowd, from fans, from players. You've got to be strong.
So I'll continue with the first question. Okay, and you said you moved to South Africa. I think it was in mid 1980s.
Yeah.
And how difficult was it for you to move, to South Africa? It would have been a very difficult task for you to, like uncharted territory in terms of from where you come. How difficult was it for you?
It wasn't really difficult because I had no choice. I had a wife and 4 children at that time. There was no work here. There was no prospects of any work. Now, we didn't go out there blind because my sister was already there and had been there. We went there in 1985, and my sister had been there from 1981. And I had been communicating with her, and she said, look, if you want to work, and there's work here if you want it. So I said, okay. So we packed up and we left. I rented my house to my sister and we went off. So the good thing is we weren't going there blind, as it were. We did have somewhere to go to. So we had a roof over our head and we had a bed to sleep in. And it took me a while to settle in, but eventually I did get a job. I got sort of, what's the word they use? Before I got, I had to get a temporary work permit, and then I got a permanent work permit, and then I got temporary citizenship, and then I applied for full citizenship. Because I believe that any country or company that gives me a job or a living, I owe them something back. So I did apply for South African citizenship, and I still have it today. It was difficult in the beginning. Apartheid was still very strong there, which wasn't nice at all. But I did get a job and started working, and then we settled in and we got the children into school. And we lived there right through the whole apartheid system, from when it was heavy apartheid right through to when apartheid fell and Mandela was released, and then the first all race elections, and then we left in at the end of 1998. So when I went there, before I went there, I had already been in contact with the football authorities there, and told them who I was, that I was a senior referee, a Premier League referee here in Ireland, and I was moving to South Africa, and I'd like to get involved over there, and all of that. And I had all my preparation done, so that when I got there, all I had to do was meet up with footballing authorities and say, I'm here. And as it turned out, we arrived on the 12th of January, 1985. And by the end of that month, then there was to be a senior referees seminar, which I was invited to. And you had to go through the usual fitness tests and written tests and so on. And I passed all of those, and I was immediately put onto the Premier League panel. And it just started from there. And then I was only there 1 year, and they already gave me a line to run the line in the final of their FA Cup in 1985. So I obviously impressed somebody. So less than a year there, and I have an appointment to their FA Cup final. Then 1987, I was put on in the middle because I'd been running the line up to then. And then in 1988, I was given their FA Cup final. I'm just going through quickly. In 91, I was voted referee of the year. In 1992, I won referee of the year, and that's that trophy there. I don't know if you can see it there. This Adidas one, South African referee of the year. And then in 94, I was still refereeing, but the refereeing situation was very fragmented and loose, and and then the PSL or the NSL at that time called me in and said they were proposing to have a Premier Soccer League, similar to what they have in the UK at the moment, where they had the first division, second division, third and fourth division. Then they had the Premier League. They did the same in South Africa, and I was invited in to take charge of the referees, which I did. And then I just changed so many things around. I mean, because guys were going to games in t-shirts and tracksuit bottoms and flip. That's not the way you turn up at a professional game. And I insisted that they wear proper collar and tie and look professional, because, you know, appearance is very important. It's not always correct, but it's very important. And first impressions are important. And if you look the part, and if you go in with a tie on and a jacket on, you know, you look professional. And some of the guys were complaining, oh, it's too warm here in South Africa, because, you know, it can get very hot. It can go up to 35 degrees. Oh, it's very hot to be wearing a jacket. Well, I said, as simple as this. If you don't wear a jacket, you're not getting games. There's your choice. So, you know, I felt that is me. I want things to be done. I'm not a dictator. But if there is such a thing as a democratic autocrat, I suppose that's what I am. Because there's ways to doing things, and no matter what you do, there'll always be somebody who'll say something different. But you can't have that. You've got to have discipline. Number one priority in any walk of life is discipline. If you haven't got discipline, you have chaos and anarchy. Like, unfortunately, in most countries, we have to have a judicial system. We have to have policemen and so on and so on and so on. Because otherwise people will just run amok and do what they want to do. And then I was in charge of the referees, and things improved dramatically, and I got more money from the leagues to try and help the referees with more training courses, more lectures, more seminars and so on. And finally, in 1998, for the first time, I might be jumping ahead, maybe these questions were coming up, so forgive me if I'm jumping ahead. In 1998, for the first time ever, FIFA appointed three match officials to a World Cup final. They had never done that before. There might be two assistants, might be a referee and one assistant. They had never done it before, and it happened to be South Africans. And I had been training, coaching, and mentoring those guys. And I have all those pictures. If you give me your email address later, I'll send you on those photos. And you can see a lot of the photographs up behind me there as well. And for the first time, three officials, a referee and two assistant referees, or linesmen as they used to call them, went from South Africa to the World Cup in France in '98. I was coaching and training those guys. And one of them, Ahmed Salih from Cape Town, ran the line in the final. And I was so happy for him. I was so happy for me as well, because it proved that what I was doing was correct. And my way of doing things is correct. I'm sure other people will do it differently. That was my way of doing things, and it worked. And it's the first time ever that a South African has been appointed to a World Cup final, and it hasn't happened since. And I'm not there anymore. And I'm not saying because I'm not there, that's why the standards have gone down. Now, maybe it is. A lot of people are telling me it is. You must come back. And say, well, to go back, I have to get an invitation. And nobody has sent me an invitation yet.
So, you know, like, definitely, like, it was a very, you have had a very successful career till now. And when I was researching, you know, like, for this interview, I was searching for questions, what can I ask? You know, I found out one very peculiar fact, that you managed 2 semi-finals in a day. It was very, like, unusual.
Yeah.
Could you shed some light on it?
Yeah, actually, and somebody said to me not that long ago, maybe you should contact the Guinness Book of Records. Have you heard of the Guinness Book of Records?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said maybe you should contact the Guinness Book of Records, because I don't think anybody's ever done that. Particularly when it was a senior competition, it was the League Cup, the equivalent of the League Cup, and it was sponsored by Coca-Cola. I was down to do see, with South Africa, the weather's so good that you can actually have 2 games on the one day on the same pitch, because, you know, the weather's so dry and really lovely. And the 2 semi-finals, it was a double header, was scheduled for Durban. And I was to do the second game. So I was living in Johannesburg, and I flew down early, and because I wanted to see the first game, and I got there. The first game was for 1 o'clock kickoff, and the second game then was for 3 or 3:15, because I had to make allowance in case there was extra time. So I got there plenty. I got there about 11:30, I think, and at 12 o'clock, the guy from the league secretary, came to me and he said, "Listen, we have a problem here. The other referee, Peter Martin, is coming from Cape Town. I don't know if you know South Africa. Or can you see the geography of it? He's coming from Cape Town. I had come from Johannesburg." He said, "Peter Martin's not here." He said, "We believe his plane has been delayed." He said, "Could you do the first game instead of the second game? And then maybe he'll come in the meantime, and then he will do the second game." And I said, the guy's name was Dan Laboa, who's sadly still since passed on. I said, "Yeah, Dan, that's fine. No problem. I'll do the first game." I said, "In fact, I'll do the second game as well if you want to." I was always very, very fit. I ran marathons. I was always kept myself very fit. And I was super confident of doing both games, never thinking that they would ask me to do both games. So I did the first game, and the first game went just a normal 90 minutes, and I came off the field, and Dan LeBeau was now, he's getting he said, "Sweeney, you're going to have to do the second game." I said, "Dan, that's no problem." I said, "Just give me some time, write my report on this game. I'll just have a quick cold shower, and I'll be back out on the field." "What time is the kickoff?" He said, 3:15. I said, "Fine." This other game had finished at about 1 o'clock. Yeah, but 2:40, 2:45. I said, "Just give me time to get it." Right, reporter. And I did. I went out and I did the second game. And the second game went to extra time. So I went on the field at 1 o'clock, and I came off at 5 minutes past 6, officially, because that's when the second game finished. And it was hot. I don't know if you know Durban. It was hot and sultry because it was, oh my goodness, when was it? I think at that time their leagues were still running because they're Southern Hemisphere, so their leagues were running starting around February and finishing around October, that sort of thing. So it was sometime in October, I think, late October, which was coming into their summer. And summers down there can be hot and sultry, and the humidity, particularly in Durban, can be quite high. So that was the story of that. And somebody said you should put it in the Guinness Book of Records, but it was, it's a long time ago. I don't know if they'll even remember it now,
So of course that was a very interesting tale for everyone. I don't think so anyone will achieve that again in any stage. I think so. So on a personal level, you have been part of very high-profile games. So if you had to choose one game which was the best, in terms of your performance, and one which was the worst, which one would that be?
Every game is different. There's not necessarily a good and a bad, or a worse and a better. Or every game is different. I never treated any game as being more important than the last game. Whether it was a cup final, as I said to you earlier, with the England captain being red carded, or whether it was just a junior game with 10 people watching, every game is important to the people who are playing it. And I was always very mindful and conscious of that to the players playing, even at a junior level or at an amateur level, to them, that game is very important. It may just be a league match where they get their 3 points or 1 point if they draw. It might be a cup match where it's knockout, but to them it's very important. And as referees, we have to be conscious of that fact, while at the same time trying to arbitrate between two teams who will sometimes go to whatever lengths to try and win that game. And if that means cheating and diving, to do so, to gain a free kick, to gain a penalty kick, to get an opposition player sent off or booked, they will do it. So we have to be very conscious of that. So there's no game important or not, or less important or more important. From a refereeing perspective, probably a cup final, like any other player, referees love to get cup finals, get to be appointed to cup finals, because that's the pinnacle of your career. That's when I got not only the Referee of the Year award, that I really appreciated that very much. And that was 1992 now, so it's quite a while ago, but I still have the trophy and will keep it forever until I die. And then I'm sure my children will come and clean out the house and throw the whole lot in a rubbish bin. But I wouldn't say any game is more important than the next. I wouldn't say I liked this game better than that game, other than the glory, if you like, of getting that FA Cup winners medal, the same as the players get.
So moving on from that, you have been a referee or been involved in the refereeing side of the game for quite a while, multiple decades. So how has the refereeing maybe infrastructure or the quality of the refereeing or the finances involved with it evolved with time?
There has never been enough money put into refereeing. Referees have always been the poor relations of what they call association football. Always been the poor relations, almost like an evil necessity. Oh yeah, we need a referee. Oh, we have to have a referee. No game without a referee. Yeah, well, my question then is, why don't you treat them with the respect that they deserve? You say there's no match without a referee, yet you treat them like dirt. You treat them very poorly. And even today, it has improved. Certainly it has improved, because the profile of the game has improved. There are more nations competitions. You got UEFA, you got the Champions Leagues, but then you have the Nations Leagues. In Africa, you have the AFCON and so on and so on. All the games are important, but refereeing has improved, but not as much as it should. And I don't think that we're recruiting the right kind of people to the senior ranks. Down at the lower ranks, there's a lot of alleged, and I say alleged, I have no proof of it, corruption, referees taking money, bribery, influencing games. When I say alleged, it's more than alleged, because in 2016, for the qualifying match, World Cup match between South Africa and Senegal, don't know if you remember that, the referee Lamptey from Ghana gave a penalty to South Africa, which they scored, and meant that they had won the game 2-1. Now, it was clearly shown that the ball had hit the player on the leg and not on the hand, as he alleged. And it's not as if the leg is there and the hand is there. I mean, the arm was there, and the hand, so it was miles apart, as it were. But he gave a penalty. The whole thing was subsequently investigated. The game was replayed in 2017, and the referee was banned from refereeing for life, and rightly so. And in my opinion, it was a form of corruption, and he should have gone to prison. If you cannot trust a referee, it's like not being able to trust really three people you need to trust in your life, apart from refereeing. You need to be able to trust your doctor, that he's going to do his best to save your life. You need to be able to trust a policeman, that he's going to protect you if there's trouble. And really, you need to be able to trust your religious leaders, regardless of what religion you are, because you would expect all of them to be above reproach and to not tell you lies and to not lead you astray. But then very close to that is refereeing. So refereeing is like the judicial system in any country. In my opinion, there should be a professional referees body controlled and operated by ex-referees, not club managers or soccer politicians, as I call them, who really are only looking after their own interests. The referees should be like the judiciary in any country. While they are paid by the government, and referees are paid by the national body, the Football Association of that country, they should be separate to make their own decisions independently, transparently, and without question. But they should not have, no non-referee should have any influence whatsoever over the referees, and they have, and continue to have. And to me, that's wrong. There should be a separate independent referee body. I wrote a paper, this paper here, which I delivered, and that was the actual covering of it there, which I delivered to a conference in South Africa, that there should be an independent refereeing body overseen by a chairman, a board, headed by a retired High Court judge, to show complete independence, transparency, and objectivity, that there's no influence. In the FA in London, for example, the clubs are the club chairmen are members of the FA board. Now, there's always been in the past, suspicion that Alex Ferguson, former Manchester United manager, was influencing referees. And he had this famous Fergie time when he pointed to his watch. That I'm sure you've seen all that and you know about all of that. There were instances where referees openly admitted having Alex Ferguson's phone number. Now that to me is absolutely out of the question. Absolutely out of it. That should absolutely not be. There was a time when Mark Clattenburg, famous Premier League referee, was alleged to have used racist abuse at a Chelsea player, John Obi Mikel, which he denied. But John Obi Mikel alleged that he did. And it was investigated by the FA and it was investigated by the police. And they found that there was no charge to answer. But another referee, whose name I won't tell you in public, but I'll tell you later on, off air as it were, said that he phoned Alex Ferguson on behalf of Mark Clattenburg to say, please, can you say something good about Mark Clattenburg when you go to the next, or get your chairman when he goes to the next FA meeting? What? Why would you do that? Why would you try to influence him one way or the other? The guy's either guilty or he's not guilty. It's not a question of influencing him. It's a question of finding the evidence to see, did he or did he not make any kind of racist remark or slur or comment? You can't say, will you speak for him? It's not a question of speaking for him. If you're speaking for him, it means you're trying to help him. He shouldn't need help. He's either guilty or he's not guilty. It really is as black and white as that. He's either guilty or not guilty. If he's guilty, he needs to be disciplined. If he's not guilty, he needs to be cleared. And the player who alleged that he said something then needs to answer. He's been cleared now. What do you think he said? And maybe you made it all up. Do you see where I'm coming from? With refereeing, it really, we're known as the men in black. I don't know if you've ever heard that expression, because traditionally referees always wore black, never any other colors. And so it should be black and white. It either is or it isn't. It's not a maybe. It's not a yes or a no. It's either yes or no. It's not a maybe yes or a maybe no. I've actually forgotten the question what you asked me, so I've waffled on.
No, it was like, how has the game evolved along with the referees?
Refereeing standards are not as good as they used to be. Well, I say that, and I'll put in a caveat here, in that on the continent of Europe, which we see most of all, we don't see much African soccer. Or you're in Egypt, I think, are you?
No, I'm in Nepal.
Oh, beg your pardon. I beg somebody, because I have another Zoom meeting with somebody in Egypt. Yeah, we get mainly Europe. We get a lot of European soccer, and of course a lot of UK soccer. And the standard of refereeing in Europe is a lot better than it is in the UK. But here's a problem. In the UK, I watch referees and I say, oh my goodness, How could they make that decision? Oh dear. And I see the same referee, maybe 3 or 4 days later, refereeing a Champions League match or a Europa League match, totally different referee. The standard really is miles apart. When they go out to Europe, their performances are very, very good. When they come back to the UK, the standard seems to drop. It's almost as if they have two styles, one for Europe and one for the UK. And that shouldn't be. It should be the same anywhere because it's the same game. It's the same laws of the game. Why is it different in Europe than it is in Africa? Or sorry, in the UK? Why is it different in Europe than it is in the UK? Why is it not the same standard? It should be the same in Nepal. It should be the same in China. It should be the same in Singapore. Go wherever you like. The same laws of the game are there. Why are they not applied right across the board? Whether it's a lower game or a higher game, whether it's in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in the Americas, why is it any different? And to me, what's happening in the UK at the moment, their standards are dropping to the extent that they did not have one official at the 2018 World Cup in Russia, the UK. And yet they claim to be the best league in the world, they have the best referees in the world, in their own mind.
So, moving on from that, one thing that you have been very vocal about is the protections of referee. You have always been very vocal about that. And I'll ask you on a personal note, were you ever, fearful for yourself when you were refereeing a game? And also, I would like to add another question to that is, did you ever receive threat before or after the game?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, lots of them. Lots of them. I've been threatened. I've been taken out of football grounds in the boot of a car, in a police armored vehicle. I went down to, I don't know if you know anything about South Africa, but where I lived, I went down to a place called Bloemfontein, which is in the center of the country. And it was a relegation match. And literally whoever lost the game was going to be relegated from the Premier League down to the First Division. They sent me, I don't know have you heard of Clint Eastwood, the movie guy?
Yeah.
And you know about his movies, Dirty Harry?
Yeah.
Yeah, well this is Dirty Harry. Because any dirty games there was, I always got them. And they sent me down to do this game. And when I got to the hotel, I said to the manager, now, don't tell anybody I'm here. Don't tell them what room I'm in. Don't tell them what floor I'm on. Don't even tell them I'm in the hotel if anybody asks. When I got up to my room, and I opened the door and I closed the door behind me and I went over to the bed, on my bedside table was a bullet, a 45, and that's a big bullet, sitting on my bedside table. Now, maybe it was left there by the previous occupant. I don't know, but I don't think so. And I think it was for me. Anyway, I did the game and one team lost and was relegated, and that's the way it goes. I had a phone call one time to my office in Johannesburg. It was on a Thursday and I had a game on the Sunday. This phone call, this guy phoned in and he said, if his team doesn't win on Sunday, and these were his words, you'll get a bullet in your face. And he hung up. I was so angry. I wanted to grab him. I couldn't grab him through the phone, but I was so angry that he would even think for 1 minute that I would be influenced or intimidated by that. Another time, there was a game. I disallowed 3 goals on one team. They were leading the league, and I disallowed 2 goals. Sorry, 2 goals. 3 goals. 2 for offside and 1 for where a player. And I said to him, do not take this free kick. It was right on the edge of the penalty area. Do not take this free kick. until I blow the whistle, because I'm going to step out the 10 yards, or now 9.15 meters. And I was stepping it out, and as I'm going almost towards the 10 yard, the ball went flying past me, and the goalkeeper ran out, bumped into me, fell down, and the ball went into the net. They wanted the goal. I said, no goal, no goal. I went back to the player and I said, I told you to wait until I stepped out the 10 yards and set up the wall, yellow card. And I said, if you do it again, you're going to get a red card. Simple as that. And of course, the crowd went wild because they couldn't see anything wrong with it, or maybe didn't want to see anything wrong with it. This is fine with me and fans. Fans can be very subjective. They only see their own team. They don't care about anybody else. And whatever it takes to win the game, they don't care. So that's why we are there as referees or as arbitrators. That day, we were locked in the dressing room for an hour and a half after the game. The crowds wanted, when I say we, myself and the two assistant referees, they were banging on the roofs, they were throwing rocks on the roofs, they were doing everything. And I used to carry a firearm then in South Africa. And every time I'd get to the ground, I'd give it to the security. Now, our soccer security were excellent. They were excellent. They were all policemen, either serving uniform or they wouldn't be in uniform on the day, or detectives. And they were excellent. And I remember after an hour and a half, they had backed up a big police armored car as close as they could to the dressing room entrance. But we still had a stretch of ground to run across to get into this. And this policeman said to me, here's your weapon. He said, load it and cock it, but hold it down by your side. And he said, if I fire, you fire. I said, whoa, John, what are you saying to me? I don't want to shoot anybody. He said, I'm telling you, just do as I tell you. I said, no, John, come on. He said, just do as I tell you. If I fire, you fire. I'm only going to fire as an absolute last resort. Because they were breaking down the fence. And I have no doubt in the wide world that if they had got me that day, I would not be speaking to you today. I have no doubts in the wide world. And he said, we had to run about 20 meters, I'd say, open ground where they would have seen us, and into the back of this police armored car. And thankfully, I did not have to fire, and neither did he. So everything, but it was close, and it was very close. They're just one or two or three instances. There are lots more. It's dangerous being a referee. It absolutely is dangerous being a referee, unless you have proper protection. And I sympathize enormously with referees at the lower level who don't have that kind of security. When I did the cup final, I had 21 security guys for that cup final. And I know 21 because at that time, I used to have to sign their little note to make sure they would get paid. And I signed 21 of them. And they were excellent. And they always were excellent. And they saved me on more than one occasion. And that was one of the occasions. More than one occasion. Several occasions. But there's another little funny story I want to throw in here about the police. I was rushing to a match one day. I lived in a place called Carltonville, which was about 100 kilometers from Pretoria, from Johannesburg. And I was working on the gold mines as a sports officer, and my sports manager, he was into rugby. He didn't care about soccer, and he didn't. And I said, "Please, I need to go because I'm going to be late." Yeah, I just need to do this. Anyway, I was going, and I was late, and I was rushing, and to Pretoria, and stopped by the police because I was speeding. I said, "Oh God!" So the policeman said, "Oh, Dr. Sweeney." I said, yeah. He said, "Are you going to a game?" I said, "Yeah, and I'm really late. I'm sorry for speeding, but I'm really late for the game." He said, "No problem." He said, "Follow me." He gets on his motorbike, and off he goes, and he gives me a police escort all the way. He said, "Don't worry about the speed limits, just follow me." And I got there in time. That's one of the funny stories.
So that's very funny and very interesting stories. Okay, and now we'll move on. And like you earlier said that all the games for you are of equal importance. But like you have managed both at national level and at the club level. But which games can be more stressful or intimidating for you?
They can all be stressful. Because as I said earlier, every team wants to win a game, whether it's at a lower level or a higher level. At the higher level, obviously, there's a lot more at stake with money and sponsors and fans and all that sort of thing. But at the same time, at the lower level, it's important for them to win. So I wouldn't say I don't take that as stress, and I never felt stressed because of the importance of a game, or the team wants to win it, or they're going to get promotion, or they're going to get relegated. That is no interest to me, and I always drum that into my referees. What happens on the field is not your concern. That's your concern there, that you referee according to the laws of the game, and that each team gets a fair crack at the whip and gets fairness and honesty from you. That's your only job. Put out of your mind that it's a cup final, or it's a qualification, or it's a relegation. Nothing to do with you. Don't even let that enter into your head. If that is in your head before you're going out on the pitch, the importance of this game to this team or that team, don't go out. You're in the wrong frame of mind. You are like a judge. You sit up there. You're not going to look at the circumstances that these people are poor, or those people are rich, or whatever. That has nothing to do with you. You base your decisions on the facts, like the law, as I said earlier. That's why we should be referees, totally separate, totally independent from any influence by any of the soccer politicians, so that we can make our decisions fairly and objectively and transparently. Every game is important to somebody. It's more important to this team than that team, but then maybe this team wants it more than that team. They have their own priorities and their own reasons for wanting to win a game. That has nothing to do with us. Absolutely nothing. And any referee goes out and thinks, oh, that team, if they win, they might, if this team loses, they might get relegated. Not your problem. Not your problem. And if you're thinking that way as a referee, you're in the wrong frame of mind. And if I, as a referee, head of referees, think that you are thinking that way, I'll take you off the game. Put somebody else on. It's not your problem.
So definitely. So next up, I want to talk about a very opinionated topic, that is the VAR. What is your opinion on it?
I believe it's necessary, and I hope they don't do away with it. But you know what's happening again, and I'm going to be super critical here, it's the English referees. They're messing it up. As they do with everything they put their hand to, they mess it up. The English, they think because they invented the game that they know everything about the game. But hey, it's the most popular sport in the world. It's played by I think there are over 200 nations playing soccer and members of the FIFA club. 206, I think, I'm open to correction, who are playing soccer. So they're not the only ones. And they can't decide to change things the way they want to change them. They're not following the VAR, Video Assistant Referee, protocols, which was specifically laid down by FIFA. The problem I have with VAR is that it takes too long to arrive at a decision. Now, if you take from the moment a query comes in, some team said, oh, ref, I think that was offside, can you check it? And he said, okay. So now he goes on his earpiece and he's talking to the guy of wherever he is, and blah, blah, blah. Can you have a look at this? And they look at this, and they look at this, and they look at this. And they come to a decision. Even after the guy up there, the VAR, even after he looks, the referee still has the option to agree or not. Because Law 5, and I keep referring to this, Law 5, which deals with referees and refereeing and the duties of the referee, says that the referee, I'm paraphrasing now, the referee's decision is final on all matters pertaining to the game. So he has the final say. So even though the VAR guy might say, yeah, it's a goal, he said, well, I'm not sure, I don't think so. He can then go to the pitch side monitor, have a look for himself, and then decide. But Therein lies a problem, because he now goes to the screen at the side of the pitch. Why doesn't he do that in the beginning? So this would be my suggestion. When the query comes in and the guy says, I think there's an offside. So he says, okay, I'll have a look. He should then immediately go to the monitor and look at the monitor, and in conjunction with the guy up there, between them, decide yes or no. It is offside, or it is a goal, or it is a red card, or it is whatever. Why does he have to wait there, then go over to the pitch side monitor, then he has to look again and again, and sometimes it can take up to 3 minutes. That is far too long in a game of soccer, which is supposed to be fast flowing. And that's the beauty of it all, is the fast flowing. Not like rugby. Not like rugby. This is soccer, which is fast flowing. That's my problem with the VAR. But I think it is necessary for this reason. When a decision becomes controversial, the referee makes that decision. It's now causing controversy. He initially only had one viewing of that incident, which was his instinct. Immediately he sees an incident, he makes a decision. And by the way, we shouldn't be called referees. We should be called reactionaries, because that's what we are. We see something and we react to it. But be that as it may, we're called referees. I lost my train of thought now. What was I saying?
So you were saying about the VAR, like how after seeing the...
Yeah, that's right. The referee only has one chance. Before VAR, he had one chance. But yet, television cameras can show it from 10, maybe 10 different angles, and can show, the referee was wrong. The referee didn't have that before VAR. And in fact, there was an incident in the 2010 World Cup between Australia and who, I can't remember the other team, but Harry Kewell, who played for Australia and played in England as well, played for Liverpool, I think. It was showing it on the big screen. It was showing it on the big screen that what the referee was doing was incorrect. And Harry Kewell was saying, but ref, look at the screen, look at the screen. And the referee couldn't look at the screen because he wasn't allowed to. Because if he had looked at the screen, he would have been breaking the FIFA protocols, firstly, but he would have seen that he was wrong. And then people would say, well, why don't you change your mind? But he wasn't allowed to look at the screen. And remember, also it says that the referee can change his mind on any decision, anytime, up to the resumption of the game. As soon as he restarts the game, that's gone. And this was brought home to us very recently, where Sheffield United and Aston Villa, the very first game, I don't know if you saw that, and the keeper brought the ball over the line, the referee's buzzer failed, the VAR failed. Everybody saw it but the referee was going by his watch. It didn't buzz, which it should have done to indicate that the ball was over the line. So I think it is necessary, because of the amount of angles now that there are, and the amount of cameras there are in a game, to indicate whether a decision is correct or incorrect. It's there to stay. If you were to take away those action replays and the cameras from all over the place behind the goals, if you take all those away, then take away the VAR. But then players have to accept the referee's decision. And will they? Not a chance. They'll still protest.
So, on that note, I'll put you, the next question, it might put you in a little bit difficult spot. So, if you had to choose one referee right now who is currently refereeing the games, whose performance you are impressed with, who would that be?
One referee, sorry, I lost you there. One referee.
Whose performance you are impressed with?
Oh my goodness, yeah. There are several. There are several. The little guy from Turkey, Kunyev Kakir, I'm sure I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly. Felix Brich from Germany. There's quite a few. I was asked some time ago, because I write a blog, and I was asked some time ago to name my top 10 referees in the world, and I did. in no particular order, by the way, because they were all equal. And a question came back to me, but you haven't put any English referees in there. What about Hardweb and Mark Clattenburg? And I said, no. And I said, and I wouldn't have one of them in my top 20 either, because they're not good enough. But that little guy from Turkey, he's excellent. Skamina is another guy from Little, I'm not sure where he's from. And there's a couple of guys from South America as well. There's a guy from Azerbaijan, is very good as well. There's quite a few, but certainly English referees, absolutely down. And that was proven by FIFA, because none of them were selected for the 2018 World Cup. And I will be surprised if any of them are selected for Qatar in 2022.
So, the next question again will be a little bit controversial. You have been critical of the English referee, maybe rightly so, because they are not selected by FIFA for the highest, stage of the game. So do you think, when the coaches like maybe Jurgen Klopp or in the past Sir Alex Ferguson, when they do their touchline antics, does it have an effect on the referee's mind?
It shouldn't. It never affected me.
But do you think it does?
Oh, and the English referees, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why the standard has dropped so much. Because now, like the players and the managers, they will do whatever it takes to win. Literally. I mean, they will. They'll dive and they'll cheat and they'll complain and they're sitting on the ground and they're shut, this kind of thing. I hate that kind of thing. They will do whatever it takes to win. And this is where the referees have to be strong and say, no, stop it now, or you're going into the stand. By the way, this year, maybe even last year, you can now, coaches and technical staff can now get a yellow and a red card. Up to then, the yellow and red cards were only for the players. But now the coaches can get red cards. But English referees won't do that. They're patronizing. They're doing everything to appease these referees. They're doing everything to sort of be nice. They're trying to be, favorites with them. I mean, I see substitutions being made, and the assistant referee or the fourth official engaged in a conversation with the player coming on. Why? What? I mean, they have to not only be independent, they have to be seen to be independent. And you don't get to judge sitting on the bench having a private chat or a cup of coffee with the defense or with the prosecution or even the prisoner. You don't see that. He's separate. He steps back. And referees should be the very same. And you know something? If I could read into the minds of these managers, I'd say a lot of them have actually lose respect for referees who behave like that. Their behavior is patronizing. It shows weakness. It doesn't show authority. Go out there, do your job. Who will you have respect for? You'll have respect for somebody who knows the job that they're doing and stays aloof from everybody else. And that's what we should do. We shouldn't be getting involved with players. It's not our business. Even when a player is down injured, why are the referees gathering around almost as if they're going to give a synopsis on the player's injury? It's nothing to do with us. Absolutely. And one thing that really annoys me is that when a coach runs on with the bag and the water bottle and the referee reaches over and takes water out of it. I mean, if you have teams who are anyway suspicious of a referee's integrity, they're going to say, he's drinking their water. Maybe he's doing them favors as well. They should have their own water bottle if they need a water bottle. I refereed 2 games in the one day. I didn't have any water bottles. Now they can't referee for half a game without getting... Okay, now you're starting to get me going. I want referees just to do the job that they're paid to do according to the laws of the game, without fear, without favor, and without any influence from any team one way or the other.
So, maybe the next question will be a little bit lighter, compared to the previous one. So, if you had to choose one player or manager who was very notorious and was very difficult to referee, who would that be in your experience?
That mightn't be fair to answer that question, because every manager has his own pressures, and I respect that. They have their own will to win, and they're going to do whatever it takes, and they'll try things. Sometimes they're like small children. Your children, they'll try things, and until you say no, don't do that, or you shouldn't do that, or you're naughty. They're like children sometimes. All managers, I think, some are very respectful, some are very nice, but some are really not so nice. And maybe I shouldn't be mentioning names, and I won't on this occasion. But you have to be aware that they are capable of getting up to all kinds of tricks to try and influence a referee, to change his mind, to change his decision, to even influence his decision. They will do it, they'll try it. It's up to us not to allow that, to make sure that they get a fair crack at the whip, same as the other team, and they get what's coming to them only and nothing else. And that we have a thorough knowledge of the laws of the game, and this is where it can be a problem, that there's some referees do not have a thorough knowledge of the laws of the game, and that's how they get into trouble, because they're not, if there's a doubt in their mind, they may tend to make the wrong decision, and that may be the very part of the laws of the game that the coach is very good at and knows, and is able to say, well, actually, I think you're wrong, ref, because it should be this and you said that. So it's very important that we have a thorough knowledge of the laws of the game, and that we keep updating ourselves all the time, because they keep changing the laws of the game. They keep, and I want to get on to one about handball a little bit later if you have time to ask the question.
No, definitely you can continue with that.
Okay, now the law used to say that any part of the hand or arm going all the way up to there is a handball. So if the ball hits you there and you do that, can you see that? That's a handball. Now they've changed it, and they have said, and stand up a little bit here, they've said that from there to the elbow, halfway up there, the top half there where I'm pointing with my thumb is no longer handball, but the bottom half is. Now just think about that for a second. So the bottom half down there is a handball, the top half is not. Now, how are you going to know the circumference of the ball, if it hits you there, whether it's handball or it's not handball? Because the circumference of the ball is, well, inches, 32 inches, I think. Not sure what it is in centimeters. So I'll find out now for you. The size of the ball is, where is it now? How are you going to decide if the ball hits you in the lower part of the arm or the upper part of the arm? How are you going to find that out? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. There's the ball. And that shows you when the ball is across the line or not across the line. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see.
Now look at the side. Unfortunately, it doesn't give a better picture. If you can see that line there. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Sorry. That line there. That's the line of the goalpost.
Okay.
See it across there as well?
Yeah.
That is 5 inches in width, or 12 centimeters, whichever you like. And that's supposed to be the size of the lines on the field. Now, there's the ball. You see the ball there?
Yeah.
Now Now the ball is actually bigger than that, so you can just imagine a normal size 5 soccer ball. Actually, just give me 1 second. I just found a ball. Now, this is for children. So this is a size 4. The adults play with a size 5 ball. Okay? Now look at this hitting me here. How are you going to decide which is the upper part or which is the lower part? There's my elbows here. Look, how are you going to decide which is the upper part and which is the lower part? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the most ridiculous change to the laws of all time, I think. How are you going to decide? And that's going to cause more controversy because the ball will actually cover the whole arm there. Let me do it again for you. So the ball hits me on the arm. How am I going to know? How's a referee going to know whether it's in the top part or the bottom part? Ridiculous. Totally, absolutely ridiculous. And now the other one on handball is if the ball is hit in by an attacker and it glances off, not influence, not move, glances off the hand or the hand or arm of a teammate and goes into the net, no goal. Even though glancing, it didn't alter the flight of the ball, it just glanced off the arm, and that is now being done by VAR. That if it touches the arm, now it's no goal. It's just, some of the law changes are absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But IFAB do it, and guess who's chairman of IFAB? An English referee. Need I say any more?
Definitely, I'll move on from that. Maybe it's getting a little bit hotter for you. So I'll talk about you've had a very illustrious career in terms of refereeing, okay? And if you had to look back at one moment that you will cherish for the rest of your life, other than that trophy, which one would that be?
Well, the cup final. Every referee loves to do a cup final. And obviously they like to get these awards, and I was nominated I got Referee of the Year, which is decided upon by the journalists, but I also won Referee, which is selected by the referees. So that's a great honor to be elected by your peers. And the cup final, I'd say, of 1988. I don't know if you know, I was given the nickname the Hanging Judge. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. The Hanging Judge, yeah. And I got that title in fact, it's up there on that. Can you see up there?
Yeah, I can kind of see. Yeah.
That on there, yeah. I got that in 1988. I was on my way to the cup final in South Africa, and along the streets, on the various lampposts, they would have the front page of newspapers, you know, and they'd have the headline and so on and so on. And there was a lot of controversy about who the referee for the cup final was going to be. And because at that time, 1988, there was a lot of intimidation going on among the referees, and particularly in the townships. And anyway, I was given the game, and I was driving to the ground that day. And it was all, the referees' names in South Africa were never divulged, never, ever, ever divulged. They were always kept secret because of the intimidation. And I got a phone call on the Thursday, because initially I was the fourth official, and another referee was doing the game. And I was excited. Now, 2 days before the final, I got confirmation. And so I said, oh, fantastic, great. It's only my third year in South Africa refereeing, and I've got an appointment to the cup final. And then on the Friday night, I got a phone call from the secretary of the league asking me could I go to Johannesburg for a meeting, and I said, well, I'm an hour's drive from Johannesburg, and it's now just after 10 o'clock. It's on Friday night now, the day before the cup final. I said, if I get up now and go to the Johannesburg, it'll take me an hour to get there. There'll be a meeting for an hour. By the time I get home, it could be 2 a.m. Not very good preparation for a cup final. And he said, yes, actually, I agree with you. He said, so I'm going to read you a letter from the board, and I'll never forget, and I have it somewhere. It said, your appointment as fourth official for the above cup final, blah, 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 has been cancelled. You are now the referee of the game. Well, I was absolutely over the moon. So I might as well have got up, because I always prepared very well. I went to bed early, got proper sleep and so on. I was in bed at 10 o'clock. I might as well have got up because I couldn't sleep now anyway. So I was going to the stadium the next day, and I was driving to the stadium, and there on a billboard was the front page, and that's it up there. It said, Sweeney is mystery ref. And the sub-headline was, big match in the hands of the hanging judge. And that's when I first got the name, the hanging judge. Because this guy, the reporter, he said that do you ever remember an American athlete called Carl Lewis?
I think I heard his name, but I cannot properly recall him. But yeah.
Oh my goodness. African American. Oh my goodness, what an athlete. Oh my goodness. I think he won 4 gold medals. He won the 100 meters, the 200 meters, the 200 meters relay, and he won the long jump at the one Olympic Games. And this guy said that Sweeney could pull out a red card quicker than Carl Lewis leaving the starting blocks. So yeah, that's when I first got the name, the hanging judge. So if you give me your email address, I'll send you a picture of that.
Sure, definitely, I would love to get that. So
Yes.
I'll move on to my second last question. Okay, and you have had an illustrious career as a referee, and also as a someone who coaches the referees basically. So if you had to give advice to young budding referees, what would you give them?
I would say, first of all, they have to have absolute complete knowledge of the laws of the game, because somebody's going to pick it up somewhere, and some referees get into trouble over being queried on this law or that law or that law. And sadly, with younger referees, and I'm talking teenagers, they can be barracked and shouted at by older people who should know better. And if they don't know the laws fully, these guys can really intimidate them. And so it's important that they know the laws of the game inside out, that they're very, very fit, and to keep up with play and show confidence, and not be afraid of the hassle that they're going to get from the touchline, because they will get it. They will get it. And they need to be looked after by their mentors and by the people who are training them and coaching them. They definitely need it. Every referee needs a mentor and a coach to bring them along, to watch the games, to watch their progress, which is what I was doing in South Africa, and I had quite a bit of success with that. As you know, I had that one guy. By the way, since that, I since had another 2, a referee and an assistant referee, who were at 2 World Cups, 2006 and 2010, and they did. They're at the Olympic Games. They did 4 AFCONs, the African Championship, and they did 2 or 3 FIFA under-17s as well. So they're also my pupils.
So, on that note, I'll ask you a final question, and this is not related to refereeing. This is just as a football fan or a football enthusiast. Out of the two, whom would you prefer, Ronaldo or Messi?
Neither or either. I've no interest in players at all. No interest in teams. I like watching football. When I'm watching a game of football, I'm actually refereeing it as well, even though I'm watching it. Now, my son is a huge Liverpool fan, so he's jumping up and down all over the place now at the moment. But no, I don't follow any team. I don't have a preference for any team, and I don't have a preference for players. They're both good players in their own right, in their own way. They're excellent players, excellent ambassadors. Although both have been before the courts, I think, on tax evasion and things like that. But that's their own business. I'm not interested. No, I only look at referees, and I regularly get messages from ordinary people saying, "Oh, I'm a player and I'd love to go to the UK to play. Can you help me?" And I say, "Sorry, I only deal with referees and refereeing. I write a blog on refereeing, and that's all I want to do. I'm as passionate today about refereeing as I was when I started back in 1970. I just love to see progress. I love to see youngsters coming through. I love coaching and mentoring them and watching them progress up the ranks and onto international level. Today, there are people on the international panel who should not be there because they're just not good enough. But they're there because of politics, because of who they know and the friends they've made, and that to me is totally wrong. And that's why the standard in certain countries is low and dropping. Sadly, in South Africa, it's very similar. There's lots of problems there as well with referees and refereeing, and with the SAFA, the South African Football Association. There's almost civil war going on in there, and I'm staying out of it. I just want to be involved with referees, and I will travel the world on invitation, of course. I have to get an invitation. I would travel the world to lecture and to talk and to mentor referees, but I'm not interested in dealing with teams at all.
So, on that note, Dr. Errol, thank you so much for talking to me, and I wish you all the best. And for your future, hope you can, impart your knowledge into younger referees, and maybe even they can go on to represent in World Cups and many other important tournaments. And I wish you all the best. Hope we can talk again soon, and stay safe. Bye.
Been a great pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.